there. All right.
All right.
Okay. Don't talk too much, okay, because I'll be hearing you while I'm talking.
I'll mute.
Okay. Back in August of 2012, Don McAllister published the very first episode of Screencast Online magazine. His vision was to provide a magazine with articles by brilliant writers with impressive Apple-based knowledge, but also much more than that. The magazine also includes all of the full-length Screencast Online tutorials from the month and the tip videos published in the current month. This elegant combination allows you to subscribe to the magazine to get all of this content, or you could even pick and choose and only purchase the issues that you find of interest. You do get the tutorials later than the Screencast Online subscribers, but the tutorials are usually evergreen, so they don't get stale quickly. If you really want the best of both worlds, then you would want to subscribe to Screencast Online directly, and then you get the magazine for free. Now, it must be stated, I am 100% biased telling you how great Screencast Online and the magazine are, since I am both a writer for the magazine and I create video tutorials as well. The reason I'm telling you all of this right now, though, is that this week, Don published the 100th issue of Screencast Online magazine. Not only that, he made it free. And just for fun, he even made the first issue free as well. Now, that would be pretty awesome all by itself, but I'm even more excited that issue 100 contains my video tutorial on Logoist 4. Terry Austin turned me on to Logoist 3 a few years ago, and when Logoist 4 came out, I jumped on it. In this tutorial, instead of methodically marching through all of the commands and explaining them, I decided to do a more project-based tutorial. I chose this because I had just finished using Logoist 4 to create the book cover art for the Taming the Terminal book. Subscribers had suggested to Don that more project-based tutorials would be helpful so they could see why you'd want to use a given tool. I had great fun demonstrating how I used the vast array of templates and modifications to those templates to create the vertical TTT title, add the font, change the colors, resize, and snap to grid, all using Logoist 4. I even went on a side adventure where I explained how I was able to create the dark gradient on a background of ones and zeros, and even how I generated those ones and zeros themselves. I showed how I used layering and grouping and other techniques during the design. Going through the tool in this way allowed me to also pause my progress towards project completion and take a few minutes to explain and even quickly demonstrate some of the tools I didn't use to make this particular piece of art. Issue 100 also includes my first ever tip video for Screencast Online. These are 3 to 8 minute long videos that teach just a little tip, a little tiny how-to. I chose to do a quick update video about my favorite note-taking app, Notability. Since we'd done a full-length tutorial a while before, Notability was improved to include drawing real geometric shapes and even doing handwriting recognition. I had great fun making this little tip video on Notability updates. Now that you know you can get issues number 1 and 100 of Screencast Online magazine for free, and how you can get my full Logoist 4 tutorial and my Notability tip video all in the same issue for free, I suppose I should tell you how you get the Screencast Online magazine. Go to the App Store for iOS and iPadOS and search for the free Screencast Online magazine app. When you open the app, you'll see the magazine covers of all 100 issues and the free label on issues 1 and 100. I guess I should mention that there are also great written articles in the magazine by Lee Garrett, Wally Cherwinski, Wendy Cherwinski, Frank Petrie, Rosemary Orchard, Mike Schmitz, David Sparks, Chuck Joyner, and me. This month, it was actually kind of a testimonial month where we all talked about how much we love Don and how we met Don and how cool Don is. So it's kind of a little bit of a love fest there. And there's also a conversation between J.F. Brissett and Don in text. So we've got a lot to look forward to, even beyond the stuff that I contributed. Now, I want to close this off by giving my usual warning. You do not want to check out the free issue of Screencast Online any more than you want to use the free 7-day trial of Screencast Online itself, because you will find yourself learning a lot and then wanting to keep subscribing. Don't blame me when you do. I gave you full warning. Alrighty. So, is it working, Steve?
I believe we are streaming both on YouTube and podfeed.com.
It's a miracle.
Chat room might want to check it out. Someone can feedback from the chat room whether that's working.
Cool.
So I'm back live here. Wait, what is that behind me? Hold on.
What are you showing?
Wait, did Dean do it again?
What is he doing?
Dean.
I can't see it, Steve. Tell me what he's doing.
Yeah, I think he put his password up there again.
What does it say?
Monkey. Dean.
Is he outside the window with it?
Yeah. Yes, he was.
So the last time we were here in Utah and did the show from Utah, Dean accidentally showed his secret key to his 1Password account during the show. So, yeah. An homage.
He did it again.
That's hilarious. I can't wait to go back and see that. Let's see if this is working.
So I should look at Discord. What are people? So anyone, you can see on YouTube. Thanks, Sandy. Anyone looking at podfeet.com/live. I'm hesitant to even bring it up because I think I'll bring this computer down to a crawl.
Screeching halt.
Yes, Dean is changing his password tonight.
All right, I'm going to do a little quick intro, and then we're going to hear from Rick Cartwright.
All right.
This is going to be a second by me. All right, let's get started with the show with a tip by Rick Cartwright. All right. Just have to listen to whether people introduce themselves or not. This is so great. I don't know if I have time to play all of this. I definitely don't have time to play all of Jill's, but we'll do an intro on it. With a tip by Rick Cartwright.
I don't know about you, but I love it when new...
Whose phone's ringing? With the show with a tip by Rick Cartwright.
I don't know about you, but I love it when new technology and life collide.
I'm going to cut his thing off here. Split that and cut that. One more time. So with a tip by Rick Cartwright.
I don't know about you, but I love it when new technology and life collide to create amazing experiences. And then there are those magical moments when you find pure joy from a new, shiny gadget. I am sure you've experienced this. One such experience for me was when I purchased and set up my first iPhone. Yes, that was a pure, magical moment. I was on a business trip and stopped at the Mall of America. I went into the AT&T store to look at the new iPhone. It was the brand new iPhone 3GS. Keep in mind, prior to this moment, I was considering the purchase of an iPhone, but had left home that morning for this business trip without any idea that an iPhone was on the agenda, and it certainly was not in the budget. My good wife was about to be surprised. The sales associate walked up to me and informed me that his name was Moses, and he was happy to help me. Yes, Moses. I still have his business card here somewhere. I figure I may need it someday. Moses told me I needed an iPhone, and who am I to argue with Moses? I didn't need 40 days and nights to complete that process. I left them all with my first iPhone. I phoned my wife and told her that Moses made me do it. She was not amused, but our marriage survived. Speaking of new technology, let's talk about BackTap, a cool new software technology in iOS 14. When I first heard about BackTap, I was instantly excited. This was in the early beta stages of iOS 14, maybe even during the 2020 version of Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference. I remember seeing this tweet from Federico Batici. He wrote, iOS 14 has a new BackTap feature and accessibility, and it's wild. He went on to describe the functionality briefly. I was excited to try it, but I had to wait a few weeks before I was willing to install the early versions of iOS 14 beta. I waited until beta 3 or beta 4 before I actually installed it on my iPhone. Before we go any further, what is BackTap? It is a new experience survived.
Yep. I'm cutting you off, Rick. I love this. This is a great review. Fantastic.
Good job, Rick.
I am going to say a little bit here when he's done here.
Functionality you enable with this feature. Enjoy.
Well, thank you so much, Rick. This is just the kind of thing, the way you've described it, that can kind of tickle somebody into wanting to get started with Apple shortcuts. because they can see, the immediate impact of having a shortcut and how they could trigger it with back tap. I have tried to use it, and I did suffer the accidental triggering of double tap, so all I did was just switch the one I wanted to triple tap. It would be kind of cool to have two different ones, but just having one is really, really cool. So anyway, thanks again for a great review, Rick. Okay, my input sound is really low. Not quite sure why. Levelator or Auphonic will fix everything. Should I save? Who's in charge? Hey, is anybody even telling me to save?
Rick is.
Oh, there we go. All right, I'm going to have to talk now, and it's a long one. Copy link.
Are you hearing me in Discord, Al?
I am.
Okay.
It's all working, and you're most of the time not crunchy.
All right, good.
Like, all right, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Dean and Suzanne's son Joe is really into Discord. We had him look at it, and he was just like, yeah, I don't know, and that kind of thing happens, and we've never figured it out. All right. Save. All right, here we go. This is going to be a long one. Okay, not if you don't start it. I've been pondering doing a review of my favorite code editor for a long time, but for several reasons, this is a very dangerous undertaking. First and foremost, I am a very new programmer, so I don't really know what's important and why I should care about the more advanced features. This means that more advanced developers who read the article or hear the podcast and actually know what they're doing will be sure to mock me for the article. I'm sure I will miss fundamental features that I just don't know about or for which I don't understand the importance. But here's the good news. This will get them to write to me and say, well, actually, which will make them happy and we'll all learn something from them. Secondly, while I've worked with a half dozen code editors so far, I haven't got a lot of experience with them, so I'm likely to have missed a much better editor. Or I've missed some features in an editor I did try that would have made me like them better. Thirdly, if that's a word, talking about a favorite code editor to developers is like saying you like Nikon better than Canon to photographers, or Macs better than PCs to geeks, or the Dodgers over the Red Sox to baseball fans. I mean, except that the Dodgers are better. Anyway, for certain, whatever I say will offend someone because they like a different editor, right? Fourthly, in the months I've been procrastinating for the first three reasons, I've learned some extraordinary things about the editor I like the most, so if I'd done it weeks ago, I wouldn't have been able to describe these features. If you're not a developer or don't even dream of being one, I think this article might still be 63.8% interesting, because I think I can describe the problems to be solved in a way that might make sense to anyone. That's my goal, at least. Heck, you can write to me and say, well, actually, too, if I miss that mark. If I'm going to do a proper job of all of this, I should describe my requirements in a code editor. That is essentially the problem to be solved. When I first started poking at editors like Atom and CodeRunner, my requirements were pretty simple. I wanted to be able to open my code and see the results of changes in some sort of web interface. The $15 CodeRunner is really cool because it has its own built-in web engine, so it displays the code right in the same window. Over time, I started to feel very constrained by what was originally that advantage of CodeRunner. With tiny snippets of rendered pages, it was fine, but as the code and page got more complex, I really felt boxed in. Turning on the web inspector so I could poke at the interface to see if elements were what I thought they should be, were crammed even more into the same window. I also found that I often needed to see two different areas in the same code, and you can't do that with CodeRunner. You get one copy of the code in the window, and you can't open it in a second window and scroll to a different place. Another way to solve the problem of long code is to have what's called code folding. That means folding up sections of the code you're not working on so you don't have to scroll around so much. I poked around in CodeRunner, and I couldn't find that functionality, so I moved on. I tried Atom, which is free from atom.io, that's ATOM, and I discovered that if I hovered to the left of a given function, a little downward chevron would appear and when tapped, would fold up that function of code. While Atom doesn't have a built-in web browser, it felt kind of freeing to have my code in one tool and the results of my changes in a separate web browser. I could open the web inspector in my browser and have plenty of room to stretch out. I also learned from Atom to add to my requirements the ability to open a project folder within the application. To be able to pop open files without navigating the Finder each time added a lot of efficiency to working with Atom. I discovered through using Atom that there was one thing that drove me nuts. And maybe it's a dumb requirement, but you know what? It's my list of requirements, so I can put anything on it I want. I require a keystroke to make the code word wrap. I'm not sure who it is on this planet who could read code that scrolls off the screen, but it seems to be a default for many apps to do just that. With Atom, you have to take your hands off the keyboard and move to your pointing device and go all the way up to the View menu and select Toggle Soft Wrap. I can hear you saying now that I could have added that keystroke using the keyboard, system preferences, app shortcuts to add my own keystroke, but you know what? I tried back then and I couldn't get it to work. I tried again while writing this up to make sure, and I realized why it didn't work. The keystrokes you assign in system preferences turn into characters in your code in Atom. For example, I used Option Z to toggle soft wrap and then discovered Atom was typing the Greek letter omega every time I typed it, while also toggling soft wrap. So technically it was doing it, but I didn't really want those omegas in there. At this point in the plot, then, my requirements were that I could fold comments, open 2 copies of my files at the same time, and have a big enough space to work that I could view the rendered results of my code and the code itself without feeling cramped, and be able to change to soft wrap with a keystroke. Now, as I learned more, my requirements list got much longer. Right around this time, Caleb Fong, also known as Geeko Supremo in our Slack, suggested I take a look at a code editor called VS Code. I found out later that the name is short for Visual Studio Code, and it's from Microsoft of all people. Now, my philosophy is I pretty much try whatever Caleb suggests because he finds the most interesting things. So I downloaded it for free from code.visualstudio.com. My first impression was that VS Code was a bit on the nerdy side of things, where CodeRunner was more Mac-like. But since CodeRunner didn't do what I liked, and Caleb said it was cool, I gave it a shot. VS Code immediately met my requirements of code folding in exactly the same method as Atom, giving me a little chevron to toggle next to functions and other elements. I really took advantage of folding when in our homework for programming by stealth. I had a ton of getters and setters, and I just wanted to be able to see the comments for them listed so I didn't have to scroll so much. I was kind of disappointed that when I saved my file, quit VS Code for the night, and opened it up again the next morning, all of the code was unfolded again. Maybe there's a way to maintain the folds. If somebody knows about that, I'd sure like to know, but I haven't found it yet. Option Z, out of the box, toggles on soft wrap in VS Code just the way I like it. Again, can anybody explain why you'd want to, code to scroll off screen? Ever since I found out people don't like the caps lock key, I figure somebody likes these weird defaults, but it is not me. I quickly discovered in VS Code that with a given file open, you could right-click on the tab for it and choose Split Right, or left, down, or up, and open a second copy of the file in the same window. Both versions of the file are in that same window, which might feel like you're getting cramped, but you can change the width of them with respect to each other, and you can scroll them independently, which is exactly what I wanted. So you could look at the top of the code in one pane and the bottom of the code in another pane, and that helped me so much. I should mention that while writing this up, I discovered that Atom can split right too, but I wasn't knowledgeable enough to know I wanted that yet when I was using Atom. Many code editors do this, but with VS Code, I find the autofill of variable names and functions to be more likely to guess what I want to type. Atom seems to suggest the thing that anyone would be most likely to type, but VS Code suggests what Allison is most likely to type. For example, in Atom, in the same piece of code open, if I type CL, it suggests class. Now that's a very logical guess, but that's not what I'm typing a lot right now. At this moment, I'm working in an array with an absurdly long name. I like my names that way so I can figure out what they are. The name of my array is Clock Attributes Array, and that's what VS Code suggests when I type CL, because it knows Allison. It knows what she wants to type. Like Atom, VS Code works by having you open a folder or project and then select your files to be edited from within the window. I didn't appreciate this when I was first working with Atom, but now it's the only way I want to work. Little things delight me with VS Code. Let's say I've got a variable I'm looking at, and I want to find where else I might have used it. I copy the variable name and hit Command F to open it in the search window. Automatically, VS Code pastes my copied text into the search field and goes to town searching for it. I know that's a small thing, but it delights me every single time that I don't have to hit paste before searching. By the way, for the regular expression folks, VS Code lets you use them in search as well. Along the line of the way search works, if you highlight some text, like a variable name, for example, every instance of that same text will be highlighted in your code. This can really help you scan for other usage of the same text, but it has even more valuable function. It tells me if the bug I'm hunting is a typo in the variable name or function name. So let's say I've got the function name written 3 times in the same section, and one doesn't highlight when the other one is selected, then I know there's a typo in the other one. After typos, the next bane of a developer's existence is unmatched brackets. You open parentheses, but you forget to close them. In VS Code, when you open a bracket, like round, square, or a squirrely bracket, or you open a quote, even the backtick kind, it is automatically put in as a pair in VS Code. Now, the other editors I've tried do that as well, but I didn't even notice this until VS Code. But VS Code has another trick that's even handier. I often have a bit of code that I've written, and then I realize I need to put some brackets around it or some backticks. I can select the code first in VS Code and then hit a single bracket, and instead of erasing the code and replacing it with a bracket, it puts the brackets on either side of the code. The first time I did this accidentally, I flipped my lid. I just checked Adam, and Adam does it too, but CodeRunner doesn't. This is one of those little delights that makes coding so much more fun. Now, I keep forgetting to use this trick in VS Code. I know about it, but I keep forgetting about it, but this is really cool. I sometimes come up with a variable name that turns out not to mean what I was thinking when I thought it up originally. I then have to painstakingly go through the code and find every spot I used it and change it. Now, I could use search and replace, but there's a more elegant way in VS Code. First, you select the name that you want to change and hit F2. Up pops a little window where you can change the variable name, and it changes all of the instances of that variable at once. Not only is this an elegant method, but it's also a much less error-prone method for changing the name. Now, the real power of VS Code is the extensions. Like WordPress is to the web with zillions of plugins to do whatever you want, Visual Code has an open API, and people have written all kinds of tools to extend its capabilities. I learned a lot about extensions and how to use them from Helma when we were working on our Taming the Terminal book. Installing and uninstalling extensions is super easy. You search inside the VS Code sidebar for extensions, select one that seems good, and you can read the documentation from within VS Code. If it looks good, click Install. If it's not what you're hoping for, you select it under your installed extensions and click Uninstall. It takes literally seconds. As you may recall, Helma did most of the creation of the book using something called AsciiDoc. She showed me a plugin for VS Code that would interpret a file written in AsciiDoc and then display it in a second pane as it would be rendered. This gave me a clean way to proofread a chapter of the book, and yet have the full code right next to it for editing. The plugin's full name is called AsciiDoctor.AsciiDoctor-VS Code, and it has 61,000 downloads and 5 stars. Now, I have to admit that I've installed extensions into VS Code that I think are probably super useful, but I either don't understand how to use them yet, or I haven't figured out how to configure them, or sometimes I'm just too chicken to try them. I've installed them and I'm chicken to use them. In the list of ones I don't understand, I'd have to put the entire category of linters. From what I understand, linters help clean up your code to make it more consistent. Things like getting indentations set the same for different levels of code would be an example. While I understand their purpose, and I definitely need this feature, I've installed one called ESLint from debummer.vscode-ESLint, which has 11 million downloads and 4.5 stars. I don't know what to do with it. I need to spend some time reading, or if someone would like to volunteer to spoon feed me on it, that would be great. In the category of too chicken to try, I have 2 plugins that are supposed to give me Git version control. In Programming by Stealth, we've just started to learn about version control and specifically how to use Git from the command line. And I have 2 Git graphical user interface applications that I sort of know how to use, but I want to get up my nerve to try one of these plugins because it sounds nerdy and fun. But I'm chicken. I know the whole trick of version control is you could always roll back so I wouldn't lose anything, but I am still chicken. Another extension I installed but I haven't used yet is for a service called Glitch. This service allows you to upload all of the different files for your web app and render them. Not only can I show someone how my code renders, but I can also show the raw code to people like Dorothy and Bart when I need help with my code, and Helma. They can even fork the code and mess with it themselves to see if they can fix it. There's an extension for Glitch in VS Code, and I have it installed, and I haven't yet played with that one either. I've been fairly autonomous on writing my code lately, but it probably would help Dorothy if I figured out how to use it. Now, you're probably getting tired of me telling you about the extensions I'm too chicken to use yet, so let's finish with one I'm super excited about and which I'm actually using. Here's the problem to be solved. You're plugging away on your code and you find something you need to fix, but you don't want to get distracted from something else you were working on. How do you remind yourself to go back and fix that thing you found? You can keep a log somewhere of things to fix where you reference the problem by line number and description, but inevitably line numbers are going to change as you make changes in the code, so you're not going to be able to find it. You can also make a comment in the code outlining the problem, which might work, but good code has so many comments in it that you might not notice it even if you write in all caps trying to scream at yourself. I've tried using a bunch of stars or exclamation points, but it's not loud enough. I can't see it. I scroll right past it. I noticed that some comments Bart made in his code lit up in bright green, so I started using that format. I got all excited with the way he had formatted it, but it turned out it was lit up because that syntax was only for documentation. Imagine my delight when Helma told me about a whole category of extensions for VS Code just for syntax highlighting of to-dos. The one I've chosen is called To-Do Free from gruntfugly.todo-tree. This extension is so cool. In VS Code, you have a settings file that's a plain old JSON text file. And when you install To-Do Tree, it adds some configuration lines to that file. This configuration tells VS Code how to color the keywords you choose. For example, by default, To-Do Tree adds the tag To Do in all cap letters and adds a setting for the foreground to be gray and the background to be yellow. Now, if you type a comment and in the comment you type the word To Do in all caps, it will be gray text on a yellow background, making it stand out in your code so you can't possibly miss it. You can change the configuration settings to make the colors be what works well with the theme you've chosen in VS Code. Helma and I are big fans of light themes, while Bart loves a dark theme, so it's great that you can tailor this to exactly what you want. I've added a few more tags to the configuration file, so I can't remember which ones were there by default, but I have one called Fix Me in all capital letters that is bright pink, and another one called Idea, that's white text on green, and Alert, which is all red. Now, let's say you have your to-do color highlighted, but you've got lots of code, so you could still miss it. To-do Tree has another big trick up its sleeve. In the left sidebar, there's a little icon of a tree with a check mark in it. This reveals every one of the instances of any of the tags you've applied and the rest of the text you put in the comment. You basically have that list of action items you would have had to write by hand, but with this list, when you select a To-Do or Fix Me or Idea, it takes you right to that spot in the code. It is awesome. But there's more. To-Do Tree lets you add an icon and even color it. So by default, the tag Bug has a little icon of a bug. Now, obviously, you'd want a check mark for to-dos, and I added a question mark for idea and a flame for what I call Fix Me. The documentation is great for to-do, which you can tell because I figured it out and I had fun with it. All right, all you developers, tell me everything I missed, all the things I got wrong, and how your favorite code editor is way better than my favorite. Oh, I should mention, Atom has extensions too. I'm happy with VS Code, and I'm learning more every day about how to make it work even better for me. If you've got a favorite extension for VS Code that you think I'd enjoy, or maybe some clues on how to use the ones I'm afraid to try, I'd love to hear about those too. Whew. I should save. Oh, wow. That is in bright black bold. I can't possibly miss that. How did you figure out how to make it bold? Does it do markup? Is Steve still there, or did he wander off? It was an accident.
I'm here.
Hi, dear. Have you been having fun?
Tons of fun.
You sound frustrated.
No, I think it's streaming fine now.
Good. Your audio is low.
So can you see can you see Discord?
Yes.
Scroll back a little bit to see what Jill dressed up as.
Oh, is there a picture?
Yes.
Hang on. Oh my gosh.
Guess who that is?
Is that Ted Lasso?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's so
That's really
awesome.
well done. Good job, Jill.
I love it. Actually, Jill sent me that and I didn't get that it was Ted Lasso. Boy, am I slow.
I think the soccer field in the background was a good hint.
Well, I thought she was a commentator.
Oh, but the mustache. Come on. The mustache, the hair.
I guess so. So our friends Dean and Suzanne have not seen Ted Lasso, and we're going to
expose them
watch
to it.
Probably tomorrow night.
All 10 episodes or 8 episodes?
Yeah. How many are there? I'm waiting for him to start figuring things out. How far into it are you? We can't, not enough episodes. No, there are not. All right, let's see how Jill sounds here. I'd love to hear about those two.
Hi, this is Jill.
Too long of a gap. Afraid to try. I'd love to hear about those two.
Hi, this is Jill from the North Woods. Today we're going to talk about diary apps or journaling apps, however you like to call it. There are some really good journaling apps out there in the world, particularly when you're talking about the iOS world. I started with Day One back in 2011 when it was released. Almost day one, so to speak. I've always wanted to be more serious about journaling than I have. And Day One really got me to that point where I could start doing it because it was on my phone and my phone is with me all the time. I tried journaling back when I was a kid with all my 12-year-old angst. I talked about how that boy in class, well, he didn't like me, and why was I the only girl who read Scientific American? I have given up on any desire to do any sort of diary like that. When you think about diaries, that's what comes to mind. Honestly, there are a lot of purposes for journals. So I don't want you to roll your eyes when you think about journaling and you hear about all the different trends of emotional journals or gratitude journals. There are a lot of reasons to have a journal. You could write a book journal, which reviewed every book that you read, or a Bible or prayer journal, some type of spiritual journal, a photo log. So your favorite photo of the day could be captured in this journal and you could reflect back on it. There's also the health and exercise, pregnancy kinds of journals, so you can keep track of how you feel each day, what worked, what didn't work. Social media collections, so you have a place to gather all your social media posts into one place. Goals and productivity is another reason why you might want to have a journal. Some people have a work journal, hobbies journal. I keep a personal quotes journal where I keep all the quotes that I really like to have. Some like to keep reviews they write in a journal format, whether it be restaurants. I saw one for beer and another for whiskeys. Don't think of journaling in that same sense that I think we've always thought about Dear Diary. Think about it in the sense of being able to record your time or your experiences. One thing that it's done for me over the course of this pandemic is it gave me some perspective when it came to traveling for work. I travel a lot for work, and I'm gone from my house about 25% of the time. But since I've been home, I've really thought I've enjoyed being at home. And what if I don't like traveling as much as I think I do? While reflecting in my Day One journal, which again is not an emotional journal, but more like a what did I do today kind of thing, I've been able to look at all the amazing experiences I had while traveling for work. I've gone to baseball games and football games and Disney World. I have gone to New York City and seen 2 Broadway shows. Things that normally would be expensive vacations or big experiences, like going to the Olympic National Forest for a weekend, were easy for me because I travel for work. And I've met amazing people too. Because I gained perspective from my journaling app, it helped me realize that I like traveling for work a lot more than I seem to remember that I do. Sometimes it's easy to think back about all the missed flights and weird hotel experiences. This journaling helped me to have a better picture about something that was giving me a negative opinion. So I'm going to talk about 3 different kinds of journaling apps, and maybe one of them would be something that would fit you.
And I'm going to cut you guys off because this is a nice long review and just so filled with fun. And I love the way you talk, Joe. You just kill me. Uh-oh. Why does that keystroke not work? I can never remember the right keystroke to get to the end of a segment. I'm scrolling. Oh, there it is. Save now and add a bookmark. I don't know if I have a bookmark. I'm not doing a pledge break tonight. I'm actually going to close this out a little bit early here. Your friend says you talk like
Talk
a
like sausage?
That's
Fits in with
interesting.
tonight's show.
Okay, well, we need to do a chapter count at the end, Steve.
All right.
Since I screwed up and didn't do security bits last week.
I don't think I'm going to help, but I'll try.
You're not going to help. Well, you can look on the website, see how many I should have.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Podcast and tell your friends about it. Thanks so much.
I tell you, I think this is my favorite review you've done so far for the show, Jill. I love especially how you teed it up by explaining that you're not talking about the 12-year-old teenage girl angst kind of journals here. You could actually hear you smiling while you were talking about that part. To everyone else, if you like Jill's reviews, I can highly recommend that you check out her podcast. It's called Start with Small Steps. It's a podcast for real people who want to make change but don't know how to start. In her About section of her website, she explains it more. She says, if you feel like positive change is overwhelming or elusive, or building the life you want seems far away, I will help you create easy and practical steps towards success. If you don't have time to sift through thousands of hours of podcasts, hundreds of books, or centuries of advice, let me do it for you. Like her articles for the NosillaCast, Starts with Small Steps podcast isn't preachy. It's filled with delightful examples from Jill's own life that she weaves into the explanation of the books she's read to help make the small changes that have had a big effect. I really enjoy it, and maybe you would too. You can find Start with Small Steps podcast in your podcatcher of choice, or you can go to her website at smallstepspod.com. Hey, when you do it, tell her Allison sent you. Well, that's actually going to wind us up for this week. Don't forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, and suggestions by emailing me at allison@podfeet.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at podfeet. Remember, everything good starts with podfeet.com. If you want to become a patron, go to podfeet.com/Patreon. Want to give a one-time donation? You can go to podfeet.com/PayPal. Want to join our community? There's two ways to do that. If you like Facebook, you can go to podfeet.com/Facebook. Or if you hate Facebook or you just like more fun people to talk to, go to podfeet.com/Slack. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeet.com/live like Daniel Sembro did after being gone for a while. And nuts. I thought I could pull it off. I forgot where I stopped the sentence. Okay. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, there it is. I think my audio got turned down. Why is that? That's low. Let's see. Come on. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show like Daniel Sembro did after being gone for a while, just head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. We missed you, Kevin. Hope to see you soon. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. There we go. All right. I think I'll put in, how about a chapter mark for Jill's show?
I think
Let's do
that's
one for
appropriate.
Jill. What's that?
I think that's appropriate.
Everyone else, there we go. Why is this so quiet? My input's way down. Pop it up there. I know it'll get fixed, but okay, let's see. H. I figured out why it wasn't working. I have to have Hindenburg in focus when I do the chapter marks, so there was nothing wrong with it.
Jill's asking if Alphonic kills the chapter marks.
Alphonic desktop will kill those, but if you do Alphonic on the website, it keeps the chapter marks.
And one is paid, one is free?
No, they're both paid. The Alphonic desktop cost $100, and I bought it so I wouldn't have a recurring fee. And when I found out it had destroyed the chapter marks, I went ahead and started paying the monthly fee. So basically,
Paid
I paid
twice.
twice. There we go. So, yeah, if that answers your question. All right, let's do a chapter mark count, Steve.
Okay, you didn't do one for clockwise, right?
I did do one.
Okay.
So read off the ones you think I should have.
Okay, clockwise,
Uh-huh.
100th issue of Screencast Online.
Right,
Backtap by Rick.
right,
Beginner's Developer View of VS Code.
right.
Journaling Apps by Jill.
Uh-huh.
And,
And then Small Steps Pod.
Small Steps. Okay. That's it.
Yep. We are good. Let me drop in the outro music. And we're just going to cut things off a little bit early. It's actually quite warm in this room. I should open a window. It is 64 degrees outside. You hear the ending here? Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. 32. Yikes. Pull that up too. All right. I am going to export the show, and then I think we are going to put Steve out of his misery here. How's that sound, guys?
Sounds good.
All right, Lindsay, you'll have to read or listen to the show to get all of what Jill says about day one. It sounds like a really cool tool. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for everybody who got there early, who actually helped us do some diagnosis. That was really helpful.
Yes, it was.
All right, now let's see if Steve can figure out how to make it go away. I'm going to kiss Rose goodbye. Bye, Rose.
Good night, Show.